Juliet Eidelman started ceramics as a hobby while still in high school. This established architect kept her second passion alive, and in 2015 she opened her own studio in Woodstock, Cape Town, creating beautiful pieces.
I love clay, I love working with my hands, and there's a sculptural element to it which I really enjoy. And I think part of architecture, it's similar with having structures and working out how things get made, and I enjoy the shapes and forms and the feeling of clay and the texture of clay. I do a lot of decor pieces and I do a lot of bespoke pieces, so I don't do the same thing over and over again. And I enjoy simple colors, simple forms. I don't do very intricate designs. So you'll see a lot of my work is raw clay. I don't do a lot of glazing or painting. So I really enjoy expressing the clay itself, the texture of the clay, the color of the clay, and very simple forms. I often experiment with different shapes, so I don't necessarily know exactly what I'm going to end up with before I start. I've got a basic idea, and I'll start and it'll actually end up looking slightly different. Alternatively, if I'm given a design that people want to create, then I will actually draw it up to scale and then work off a drawing. I use a combination of making slabs and making coils. So this has been made, the base of this bowl was made of a slab, and then I'm now coiling onto it to give it a unique shape at the top. And this is hand building, so I prefer using this technique to throwing on the wheel. You've got a bit more control on your shape, and each one then does come out differently whether or not you want it to or not. And this is going to be a planter. And I will texture it before I put it in the kiln, and then probably add a little bit of white glaze into it to just bring the texture out.
Making her pieces by hand, she has a love for the beauty that comes from the uniqueness of each design, focusing on texture, simplicity, and raw, unglazed clay in her work.
Opening the kiln is a surprise every time. Like when you put something in the kiln, you never know how it's going to come out. And it also shrinks in the kiln, so you have to oversize everything when you're making it. And with colors, often the glaze color looks nothing like the finished product when it's finished being firing. So yeah, most potters always get a surprise every time they open the kiln. I really enjoy working with my hands, and that's something very different between architecture and ceramics. In architecture, your design process is very much one thing, and then the construction is something else that gets done by someone else. Whereas ceramics is something which you yourself can actually have the vision, have the design, and then create it yourself with your own hands. And I really enjoy being part of the entire process.
Juliet has become known for a variety of pieces, including everything from bespoke decor to functional wear, light fittings, and planters.
This is one of my favorite nurseries for succulents and indigenous plants, and I started chatting with the owners and then explained that I made planters. And that's how this relationship grew. So I now supply them with planters, and here's a nice collection of all these indigenous succulents in an assortment of pots. I love spending time in nurseries, especially with all these indigenous plants. And this time of the year is beautiful because they're all flowering now. So winter is when all these succulents start flowering. They're obviously indigenous to this part of the world. They grow really well. I find them really interesting, and I think also the structure and the shape, they're quite architectural plants, if that makes sense. So I really, really enjoy them, and I love the very clean lines. They're green, they're not too fussy, and they really, really grow so well in this environment. I can't go home empty-handed, so I think I'm going to have to take this guy with me and find a beautiful pot to put him in.
Living a coastal life on the mountainside allows Juliet to stay deeply connected to nature.
I've always loved plants and having plants in my home and having plants in my garden, and that's why I started making planters. And what I love about how I make them is I use the raw clay, they're unglazed. I try to pick up the textures and the colors of nature, so you can see how it fits into the color scheme of the stones and the mountain. I always leave the marks on the pots of where I've joined the clay and where I've made them. Like, I don't try and smooth that away. That makes each one really individual and unique, and I like to see how things have been made. So this is just a cream clay that I use, and then this is a black clay. I love the black clay with some texture in it, which I accentuate with a little bit of white. And you can see that I've done in quite a few of the different planters, this one as well. And I really like how that just accentuates the green of the plants. And it's not shiny, it's got a matte texture, and that for me kind of goes with the natural environment.
The diversity of working with clay allows Juliet to enjoy her works, from her plants to her plates.
So winter's really nice for cooking, which I love doing, and having friends over, and homemade soup, and sitting in front of the fireplace, and all those nice warm things. I'd like to keep it small. I enjoy making the pieces. I don't want to end up in a situation where I'm directing other people to make. That's exactly why I've gotten into this, is because I actually enjoy the process. So yeah, I would like to keep it as small as possible and hopefully be as involved in the process of making the ceramics as possible, because that's what I love to do.
As the old adage goes, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. Whether it's architecture or ceramics, Juliet Eidelman uses her creativity to create beauty in the world.